Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Business of Sports and Entertainment Virtual Summit hosted by the My Brother's Keeper Village here in Columbus, Ohio, and the Ohio State University Fisher College of Business. My name is Amjad and I'm a proud alumnus in 2016 from the Fisher College of Business where I studied finance. Today, I am working as an executive producer and partner for Inside the Green Room with Danny Green, which is a TV show that started as a podcast that we turned into a business. I'm very fortunate to be here with all of you today, and I've been really grateful in my career to be able to combine my corporate background in technology with the ability to create platforms to help professional athletes tell their stories. Today we've got an exciting conversation with some folks here today, and I look forward to hearing questions from all of you and having you guys be engaged in this conversation. When we started our show, our first partnership was in Canada with Yahoo Sports. And then eventually we moved on to Los Angeles where my business partner was playing for the Lakers. And so we partnered with Spectrum Sportsnet and eventually now with NBC Sports Philadelphia where he was playing for the Philadelphia 76ers as well. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today, and I'll turn it over to Justin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Turner, and I will start my sophomore year this fall at the Ohio State Fisher College of Business, where I'll be studying marketing. I'm also a filmmaker, and I co-own with my brother, Julian Turner, who's here with us in the crowd today, a film production company here in Columbus, Ohio called Dreadhead Films. I've been fortunate enough to produce, to this date, 8 short films, and I've done projects for Sesame Street, Amazon, Beats by Dre, and most recently, Nike. I'm currently working on producing a feature film with my brother at this time. I too am excited to be here with you guys today and look forward to hearing from our incredibly accomplished guests.
Awesome. We've got one main goal today, which is that each one of you has the opportunity to be exposed to the different careers and opportunities within sports, entertainment, and media that don't involve picking up a ball or being a professional athlete in any other way.
And our approach this morning will be quite simple. We have 5 questions that we will ask each of our panelists today that will allow us to get to know them and what they do. Once we hear from each of them, we will then give all of you in the audience the opportunity to ask questions. If you have logged in virtually this morning, we ask that you post your questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Sound like a plan?
All right, let's do it. So we're going to start today with our fellow Buckeye, Neil Hedgeday, who's in New York, my fellow New Yorker. Welcome back, Mr. Hedgeday. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Appreciate it. Yeah, super excited to be here. It's an honor. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. And I understand you graduated from the Ohio State University Fisher College of Business in 2010, 2011, and you actually started your career in banking. It's kind of similar to myself. And now you're serving as the Director of Player Engagement and Business Development for the Nbpa, which is the union for the NBA, the National Players Basketball Association. Can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up in your current role, and then just kind of walk us through a day of work for you?
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting story, honestly. It had always been a dream of mine since I was a kid to find a way to work in professional athletics. When I entered the Ohio State University, as a freshman in 2007, I actually entered as a biology major with the hope to end up in the sports medicine field as a team doctor, either in the NFL or the NBA. Lo and behold, after a couple of biology classes and chemistry classes, that major quickly shifted. But I was blessed to be able to change my trajectory by getting into the Fisher College of Business. I majored in finance and from there entered into the world of banking. And honestly, what I tried to do the entire time during my career in finance was identify a way to swim to this North Star, which was a world in sports. And so I did anything and everything that I could to acquire the skills and tools needed to differentiate myself as a candidate for the day when that opportunity in sports would finally make itself available. And about 3 years ago, after about a year of trying to get into the space, I got an email from the Players Association. They mentioned they had an opportunity available in finance. That opportunity was structured around an individual who had multiple skill sets and would be able to kind of step in and do anything and everything that they needed in connection with new business opportunities. And with that, took it and ran with it, and was able to quickly grow over the past 3 years from a manager in finance to now the director of player engagement and business development. It's been a rapid and fast moving couple of years, but just really excited to be able to do what I love and kind of marry my passion of basketball and business together with my current role.
That's amazing, Neil. I mean, it sounds like kind of a theme in your career has been that you've been able to pivot and really make changes along the way to meet the things that you wanted to be able to do. So kudos to you for doing that. Your story is pretty interesting, but I'm curious, what is one of the most rewarding things that you've been able to do in your career at the Nbpa so far?
Yeah, so it's crazy. I'll tell you guys, my favorite moment at the PA happened probably about a year ago. And I had the opportunity to structure a partnership actually with a high school tournament in Jersey. And we had, as a part of that, Sierra Canyon come out. LeBron James' son, Bronny James, participated in the tournament along with several highly touted players. And as a part of that partnership, I actually had the opportunity to bring them into our facility, expose them to who we are as an organization, and really make an impact deeply within the high school space. And that was something that I was extremely excited about. Along with that, kind of during that experience, and the reason why it was so memorable was I actually had the opportunity to interact with Miss Gloria James, who's LeBron's mom. And it's interesting, as a 13-year-old kid in Toledo, I can remember skipping school and scalping tickets when LeBron played as a high school senior in our city. And his mom was gracious enough to take pictures with fans. And we happened to have a disposable camera. And every individual who took a picture with her, she charged $5 and made them pay us. And so we left that day with over $200 in cash. And as a 13-year-old, that was a nice little come up. But to be able to kind of bring things full circle and have her be a part of this experience now in my career and actually share that story and that picture that I still hold with her, and to have a cool conversation about it. To me, that was probably the most special thing that's happened thus far in my career, outside of working with a who's who list of players and moving, big time deals across the finish line. I think to me that moment just stood out in particular and really kind of wrap things up and tie them together.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty special moment, but it also sounds to me like you're quite a hustler from a pretty young age.
I've always had that spirit in me, man. I think it's just an Ohio thing.
It might be. We've got a lot of young people in the room today. How would you advise them to kind of prepare for a career like yours, whether it was in banking or it's working in business and entertainment now, kind of working with Nbpa?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for everybody out there, look, your first job doesn't have to be your forever job. And as you're going through your journey, I think the biggest thing, as I look back on mine, that really helped me along the way was just acquiring as many skills as I can, right? So to draw a parallel in terms of my career and my skills and connection with the game of basketball, right? Think about yourself as somebody who wants to be able to score on multiple levels. So you need to acquire as many skills as you can to be able to make yourself the most diversified player and the most highly touted job applicant that you can within your desired field. So that's why somebody like LeBron, for example, is so special, because he can do multiple things really, really well at an elite level. So if you're a business major, for example, dive into any and everything that you can, from finance to accounting, take different jobs to acquire different skill sets to ultimately get you to go to the place that you're destined to be. And that opportunity in some way, shape, or form will ultimately come to light. And when it does, you want to make sure that you're ready to shoot your shot and that you put in the work necessary to differentiate yourself from the competition.
Awesome advice, Neil. Just really quickly, can you tell everybody listening a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like? I know you work with quite a few athletes.
Yeah, it's crazy. My day-to-day role is never the same. And for some people, I think that causes some panic. But for me personally, I love it. For example, this morning, I was on emails about an opportunity that we're getting ready to launch next week, working with players like Julius Randle, Trey Young, Aaron Gordon, and a handful of others, along with fielding calls about new business opportunities and working as a part of a strategic task force in collaboration with the Players Association, with my Players Association teammates, to stand up an experience called Playercon, which we're getting ready to launch on August 12th. And that'll be a virtual experience that'll link your favorite NBA players with fans across the world. So super excited about that and look forward to having you all participate as well in that experience. But yeah, again, for me, it's never the same each day, which is why it's special, but it all ties back to the game, which is something that I truly enjoy.
Look forward to seeing Playercon come to life. Last question for you, Neil, is what's your life motto?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll keep it all the way 100 with you guys. It's always been the marathon continues. I'm a big Nipsey Hussle fan. And actually, while I was at Ohio State, I think his music, to be honest, really just helped me get through school. And I've kind of adapted that and really helped make it my life's mission, right? And to boil it down in terms of what it really means, it means that, slow and steady wins the race. Each one of us is on our own path, and no two paths are going to be the same. And so, when you fall, make sure you fall forward and keep pushing, because again, as I mentioned, at some point for everybody on this call, that time is going to arrive where the one thing that you've been working on your whole life is going to come to fruition. And when it does, you need to be ready for that. And to be able to take that, give back, and keep running your race.
The marathon continues. Over to you, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Amjad. It is now my pleasure to introduce you all to our guest panelist, attorney Jakeem Mays. How are you doing on your side of the screen over there?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Attorney Mays is a CEO and principal attorney at Mays Law Group. As an entertainment lawyer, he works with a variety of entertainment industry professionals, including actors, recording artists, producers, songwriters, film and television studios, production companies, record labels, music publishers, and new media companies. Prior to forming his own law firm, he worked at NBC Universal, and he has worked on many scripted and unscripted programs, including The Voice and The Biggest Loser. Welcome, Mr. Mays, and thank you so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit more about what made you decide to start your own law firm, and walk us through a day at work for you.
That's a loaded question. I did not intend to start my own law firm. I sort of fell into it. So my story is one of several careers. I started out as a songwriter producer and ended up going to law school. I worked in the entertainment business for much of my life. I was in-house. What's considered a cushy job. Things changed, and I kind of just fell into it. Someone handed a client to me who is an actress, and just said, okay, I'll handle this. And once I'm done, I'll go back in-house. And things just continued to grow and grow. And now I'm a small firm instead of a solo firm. So that's pretty much the history for me.
That's awesome. What made you decide to want to study law when you were in college?
Again, for me, I was a music major in undergrad. And I think the thing that made me want to study go to law school is being around lawyers. So my entree into the entertainment business was through an organization called the Black Entertainment and Sports Lawyers Association. And so I was around lawyers, and my mentor was a lawyer. So my break into the industry was working at her firm, working with her clients. So I've been around it. I was always fascinated by the business side of things also. And so when the opportunity arose for me to go to grad school, I kind of naturally gravitated toward law school versus business school.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's great that you were able to fuse your love of music with your interest in law and studying all that. It seems like you were able to accomplish some pretty great things in your career. What would you say are some of the coolest things you've accomplished?
A few. I would say I've been very blessed. I've been very fortunate to be, I guess, at the right place at the right time. So working on shows at NBC Universal, for example, like The Voice, like Unsolved, the story of Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. allowed me to work in television, but also work on shows that involve music. Another project I worked on right after I left NBC was on BET called American Soul. So that show was about Soul Train. And we integrated a lot of guest performances. It was a music-driven show. So it's several things. And just having clients that I work with that work on projects that I'm passionate about. So there's no one cool thing. It's been a succession of things for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. How would you suggest our viewers would be able to get into your position or get into a career like yours?
I'd say you have to research the industry. A lot of people see it's what you see on TV. It's what the media portrays. And so it looks glamorous, but there's work involved, right? You have to be prepared. You have to, if you're going to be a lawyer, for example, being a lawyer is a fundamental skill set that's separate and apart from working in the entertainment business. So be good at what you do. As far as the entertainment business is concerned, I'd say you have to be patient, you have to be ready, and you have to be flexible. Neil mentioned there's being willing to work a job that may not be your dream job. There are layers to this, and you'll fall into something that you like organically.
Absolutely. What would you say your life motto is? What do you live by?
My life motto is you can do anything or accomplish anything that you want if you put your mind to it. The thought process for me is I don't believe that you should let anyone or any institution tell you, no, you can't do that. And I believe that if you put in the work, you can accomplish it. And that's not necessarily looking for a handout, quote unquote, but it's putting the actual work in and in showing up. And I believe that cream rises to the top.
Absolutely. Those are great words to live by. I'll hand it over to you, Andre.
Rises to the top. Thanks, Justin. So our next guest is Mr. Daniel Van Norton, who's a former college football player and started his career actually serving in the Major League Baseball Youth Programs Department before taking on his current position as manager of football development at the National Football League, aka the NFL. Mr. Van Norton, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate the opportunity just to share my experiences and be with this esteemed panel, talking about just how we all gotten started in our respective fields.
Absolutely. So just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are? And if you could share a little bit about what it is that you're responsible for in your role, I think it would help give it a little bit of context for folks here.
Absolutely. So like you shared, I played football collegiately at Temple University in Philadelphia. I walked onto the football team, which, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with that movie, Rudy. Exactly what you experienced as a walk-on, especially at a Division I program, especially at Temple, because during that time we were building, right? We were building up to become a premier program in the Northeast, and I was really blessed and fortunate to be a part of that process. But through that journey, I had 3 coaches in 5 years. Learned a lot from each coach. But my final year in particular, I got hurt. And I think with anyone who is, passionate about sports, playing sports, I think that's something that we all have to just realize that sometimes it's not going to end when we want it to end. It may end through an injury. It may end through you getting cut, someone not wanting you to be there. But for me, it was an injury. So during that time frame, I just really started to identify what am I passionate about? What drives me? What motivates me every day to get up and work extremely hard? And I knew it was sports. I knew it was really development, really making sure that the opportunities that were provided to me, I can hopefully step into a role and provide those same opportunities for other young men, young women, right, to change their lives, because the game did so much for me. So during that time, I actually started to really just research. I started to really get experience. I interned in our athletic department at Temple. From there, decided to go back to work on my master's in sports business. And then from that point, I needed an internship for credit with my master's program. So I applied to Major League Baseball's internship program, had no baseball or softball experience at all. So it was a shock to me that they even selected me to be an intern for that year, but it was a blessing. Put my head down, learned so much. 3 months actually turned out to be a year. They extended my internship for a full year. So I had a chance to finish my master's program, intern, get a lot of experience. And that internship really opened my eyes to, the professional development in terms of sports and what that looks like at a higher level. And during my time interning, I built relationships. And one of those relationships I built was with a representative in HR who actually had moved on to the National Football League. So just stayed in contact with him and just told him about my passions, my dreams, my desires, what I wanted to achieve. And then fortunate enough, I had an opportunity to interview for a position at the NFL, and I've been here for the past 5 years.
Wow, it definitely sounds like you're a passion-driven, mission-driven person, and that you like to take a lot of risks. So it's great to see that, and it's great to hear that it's kind of brought you to where you are today. If you kind of rewind in your mind back to the time where you were in high school and you were playing football and you're getting ready to go to college, what were you thinking that you were going to study, and how did that kind of shape your journey in college?
Yeah, I know for a lot of young folks, like I said, for myself, like I didn't know. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I think I had an idea that sports was a passion of mine, but I didn't know, what that looked like. Like, how could I, get into the field? Would it be coaching? Would it be, in the front office? Would it be on the administration side? So what I really did, I wanted to get a foundation with business. So when I was, graduating high school, going to Temple, I did do some stuff with communications, but I knew my heart was always with business. So I did decide to go to the Fox School of Business at Temple and really gain a lot of knowledge around, accounting, finance. And the great thing is that, you take these prerequisite courses that expose you to different areas of the business. And I think it really allowed me to be well-rounded and well-versed in understanding, the business world, right? Because I think wherever we go in life, whether it be working in sports, whether it be, maybe creating our own businesses like some of our panelists, it's good to have that fundamental knowledge that really can help you and set you up for success. So that's something that I really was thinking about as I was, getting ready to transition from high school to college, is how can I really understand, the business world, right? If I want to be successful in life.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of different topics that are important to developing and growing as a young person. Was there someone who was advising you along the way, guiding you, and kind of, someone that you could go to for questions to help you make these decisions?
Oh, absolutely. I know just being in sports, I think the beautiful thing about it is that your coaches, right? They serve as not only as your coaches, but mentors. Some of them are father figures, right? I grew up in, a lot of these folks were that for me. They're my second father. I could come to them and share, things that I was struggling with or things that I was going through in life, and they could relate and provide, sound wisdom and advice. Also, folks in your community. I know for me, it was folks in my church that I went to, and they actually provided some wisdom, some guidance as well. And even folks in this industry, right? I think this industry is so large, right? So unique, but to find those mentors, to find those folks that you can just learn from, whether it be just a one conversation or a conversation that lasts, where you can build a sound and a strong relationship. Many folks have poured into me. And I think that's why it's important for me to do the same. That's why I'm here today, to do the same, right? Because I didn't get here just on my own strength. I got here obviously through God really blessing me and giving me opportunities to grow and learn. But I also got here because people, felt the need to pour into me and share their wisdom and knowledge and pass it on. So I think it's my duty, it's my honor, it's a privilege to stand here today and still do the same these great young men who are listening with us today.
We're certainly grateful to have your input and insight here today. And like you, mentorship was something that was key to my life and my growth too. So I definitely appreciate you sharing some of your knowledge with us. When you think about your career so far up at this point and your role working with the NFL, what are some of the coolest things that you've had a chance to get involved with?
So many great things, and I think the beauty behind it is our department's so unique. So when I first got here, it was youth and high school football. And you think about that, a lot of people get it confused. They think Play 60. That's kind of the NFL's youth and high school football space, but it's more than that, right? Play 60 is just more of a community relations, encouraging, staying active, staying healthy, which is great because we need to do that. But I think for us, we had a goal of how can we drive participation? How can we get more boys, more girls, playing the game? How can we educate coaches? How can we educate parents? How can we make sure that, these communities are equipped with the right resources and fundamentals to really kind of grow the game? So many ways we've done that. I think in my role, particularly working with NFL clubs, serving as a project manager for 10 NFL clubs, really being in communication with them, helping them develop strategies and plans to drive participation in youth and high school football in their markets, whether that be through grants, equipment, special experiences, and now currently my role overseeing college relations. So we talk about, giving it back, building out resources, initiatives, programmings for all 128 FBS and FCS programs across the country, making sure that those resources and programs and initiatives are specific for college football student athletes, head coaches, athletic administrators, really educating them as well. And then also with our football partners. So working with Nike and Wilson, Riddell, on ways that we can grow the game and be innovative and give opportunities to a lot of, participants, coaches, and parents. And then finally, also in my role with the NFL, it's been really unique because I've been able to step into other opportunities. I serve as a co-chair for our Black Engagement Network. So we're really focused on three things: attracting, developing, and retaining Black talent at the league office. So not specific to my day-to-day with football development, but another opportunity where I can show my leadership skills and build relationships with senior leaders across various departments, solving the business challenges concerning diversity for a lot of our Black employees, and meeting with, folks like our chief diversity officer to lay out, what strategic initiatives we need to support the development for that pipeline creation for Black talent.
Yeah, you're definitely building relationships at all kinds of levels, and it sounds to me like it starts with the community and the work that you all are doing in the community to really be able to create that bridge. We're going to get to some questions towards the end here, but I want to encourage everybody that's in the audience and tuning in virtually to keep submitting those questions into the chat. And at the end, we're going to have a chance to answer some of those questions. So don't think that we're ignoring them. We see them coming in. Mr. Van Norton, another question for you is, as you continue to have conversations with younger folks and build that bridge, what is some advice you'd give to folks that are trying to get into the sports entertainment world or the business of sports?
Yeah, I would say four things, really. The first, seek the opportunities, right? Seek the opportunities and get clarity. So most folks don't really know exactly what role, you want to obtain, but just learn about it, right? Learn about different roles, opportunities in sports. Like if your goal is to work at the NFL or work at the NBA or even work in entertainment, right? Learn the ins and outs, learn the different opportunities that exist, the skill sets that are required for that position, right? So, what core competencies can you grow with, can you learn in order to get that, situated and continue to learn and grow. Also, secondly, find a way to get into the room. And if you can't get into the room, meet somebody who's been in that room, right? So networking. I think an opportunity to connect with, us today or connect with other folks in that industry that you're interested in can be extremely helpful to really know, how you can grow, what's needed. Continue to learn, right? Make yourself indispensable, make yourself extremely valuable, right? I know my boss always says this to me: it's better to hire one person that can do multiple job functions than three people who can only do one thing. And then finally, be a problem solver, right? Wherever you go in life, you're going to always have a problem that you need to solve. So really understand, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to responsibilities, the needs of an organization as a whole, what are the ways that you can bring value by being, a problem solver? It involves research, right? Especially in this business with sports and entertainment, knowing what are some of the challenges that exist, right? And what are some of the challenges that may be that industries may be facing? and being creative, right? Because I think a lot of young folks are creative. You have a lot of great ideas. Like bring those things to the table to help solve a lot of the problems that we're facing. So those are kind of four things I would say. Like I said, seek the opportunities, network by finding someone who's been in the room or someone who getting yourself in the room yourself, learn, grow, and then like I said, become a problem solver.
So many valuable nuggets from what you just said, and I think one of the most important ones is that networking is such a powerful tool. Being able to be in the room and have an opportunity to ask questions and chat with people like this is key towards growing and being able to figure out what's right for you. So continue to do that, all of you. Last question for you, Mr. Norton, is what's your life motto?
Oh, my coach has said this to me, and it's funny because this was probably in like 2010, and the context he said it, I understood it, but I actually applied it. I switched it differently. So he said, and this was like as we were watching like film, right? So we're watching football film. He's like, "Who you say you are is your philosophy, but what you put on tape, right? Because we watch everything. Like we film practice, we film games. So he said, who you say you are is your philosophy, but what you put on tape, what you put on film is your identity, right? So I think the way that I've seen that is, I can say I want to be, successful. I can say I want to be, president of a team or a GM of a club, right? But if I'm actually like not taking those steps and I'm not actually fulfilling that by, connecting and building relationships and growing and understanding what it takes to get there, I'm fooling myself. So I think for me personally, it's, if you're going to say you want to do something, put a plan together, take those action steps to actually, achieve what your goals are, achieve what your dreams are. Because like I said, you're in direct control of that. You can dictate how far you want to go in life. So I think that's something that's really stood out to me, and I've been able to use it, and it's been really something that drives me every day. Just continuing to just be a man of my word, but also stick to it and actually put those actions into place to make sure I can achieve success.
Thank you for sharing that. Justin, back over to you.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Amjad. I'd like to introduce our next guest, Mr. Eddie Blackman, who is a well-regarded and respected industry executive who started as an intern at Interscope Records. And he's worked for superstars like Kanye West and John Legend, and he's even crafted some of Legend's biggest records, including All of Me from Legend's Love in the Future album. Welcome, Mr. Blackman.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're happy to have you join us this morning. Like your fellow guests, I want you to start with telling us a little bit more about how you ended up in your current role at Sony's AWOL Records and a little bit about what that role is.
Yeah, so I've actually been here almost 3 years now. I started at a time where the company was building out their hip hop and R&B team and also their A&R team. And so I was one of the first A&Rs hired. And essentially, it's interesting because obviously my days have changed over the last year and a half being on Zoom. But, kind of my day-to-day functions are really fine. Well, let me go back and just tell you what AWOL does. So AWOL is a alternate form of distribution for independent artists. So we do deals with independent artists. Years ago, in order to become a recording artist, you needed to get signed to Def Jam or Interscope or Columbia Records. Now, in the digital and streaming space, you're able to put out records as independent artists. And so we are a company that helps do that from a distribution standpoint, also offering services from marketing, from funding, from digital strategy, digital marketing, radio publicity. So we kind of give you all of the services that you would receive at a major label without actually being in a major label or record deal. So again, my day really starts with reviewing music, obviously, lots of Zoom calls, speaking with artists and managers and attorneys. And the one thing that I really love about my job is as an A&R, I'm actually able to craft deals. And so traditionally, when you're an A&R at a record company, you're kind of the entry point for an artist, and you come in, the artist comes in through you, but then when it's time to get a deal done, it's usually thrown over to the business affairs, and then they'll reach out to the counsel of the artist, and then it kind of, you hope the deal gets done. But for me, what I'm able to do is do the deal myself. And what that allows me to do is really be able to help people who look like us, right, and give them opportunities. And yes, they won't necessarily be multi-million-dollar deals, but something that's $50,000 or $100,000, because as independent artists, you're essentially an entrepreneur. And so I look at myself as helping, being able to fund someone's entrepreneurial ventures.
Oh, that's awesome. It seems like you get a lot of opportunities to kind of invest in younger independent artists. What kind of inspired you to get into this role?
Into this specific role? So before I came here to AWA, I was actually doing artist management, and I was doing that for about 4 or 5 years. And, I enjoyed developing artists. The problem is, I can only manage a few artists at a time. And I thought there would be a better opportunity in this type of role, being able to service a multitude of artists, because here at AWOL, we have about 150 people, probably a little bit north of that on staff. And so I actually oversee a team. And so I have probably about 20 people that I kind of help oversee in our hip hop and R&B department. So we have marketing, we have digital marketing, folks on my team. So that's the one thing that I really love about the position, and why I transitioned, is because I felt like I can help more of us versus just, being in the trenches on a day-to-day, and being a manager.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It seems like you've worked with some incredible talent. Maybe if you want to go over some of the people that you've worked with and some of your most proud accomplishments or proudest accomplishments with these artists.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career, just go back a little bit. I started my career, as you mentioned, interning at Interscope, and then transferring over to, at that time, which was called Sony Urban, where they took all of the hip hop and R&B acts from Epic Records and Columbia Records and created a division called Sony Urban. And so I interned for the then general manager at that time. Her name was Lisa Ellis. And so in my internships, I was never the person that was really in one particular lane. So I wasn't in the A&R department. I wasn't in the marketing department. I really got the broad scope of how the companies were ran and how all of them worked together. From there, I actually, oddly enough, I started working with Kanye, his mother, Miss Donda West, who was the first person to actually hire me in the current role. So the interesting story is, as I actually met her at BSLA. I attended BSLA, although I'm not an attorney. My best friend at the time, he was in law school, and he invited me down to BSLA. He was an L2, I believe, at the time. Excuse me. And so I went down to Cancun and had a great time. Oddly enough, I also met my wife there. So I owe a lot to BSLA. But yeah, so I met Miss West. She hired me. I started working with Kanye for 2.5 years through Good Music, through the joint venture that they had with Sony. From there, I moved over to Columbia Records. I worked in the marketing department for about 9 months. I then moved over to Def Jam and did marketing over there for about 3 or 4 months. And then from there, I moved to working with John Legend, and that's who I've been working with for the majority of my career in various capacities. One of the coolest things that I've done in my career is actually putting together this song as an A&R called All of Me. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's only been streamed 2 billion times, 13 times platinum, but that's a different conversation. So yeah, I think that was one of the biggest, kind of achievements or coolest things that I've done in my career. So that story goes, we were working on John's 4th album called Love in the Future. And this is right around the time, if any of you can actually remember, back in 2000, I think it was 11 or 2012, where Kanye and Jay-Z did the Watch the Throne album, and they were touring in where are they at? In England, in London. And John and I flew over there. We were kind of trying to finalize the album and got in a room with Kanye. And Kanye was like, yeah, I think we can do better. So, this is the last stop of the tour. Why don't you guys meet me in Hawaii? So we flew to Hawaii probably a few weeks later. We were there for a few weeks working on the album. And John ended up going back to LA. I stayed in Hawaii. And I had heard some records from this songwriter. His name was Toby Gad, and I told John, I said, "Yo, I think you should really get in the room with this guy, Toby Gad. I've heard some incredible records." And so he had worked with Toby before. He wasn't real keen on going back in, and I said, "Trust me, I think you guys will come up with something special." So they go, they work, they write two songs, a song called Peace and a song called All of Me. And right then and there, like, everyone knew that this record was special. So John comes back to Hawaii. He plays it for Kanye. Kanye, the way that Kanye works is he likes to have multiple people, multiple producers in rooms. And so he'll give someone a song and he'll say, you go do drums, or you go do this, or you go do that. And then everybody comes back kind of at the end of the day with their version of their take on the song. And, I probably have about 9 different versions of that song in my hard drive today. But John told Kanye, he's like, "Yeah, I think I just want to leave it as a piano ballad. I think it could be the biggest song of my career." So fast forward, John puts out his first single. I think it was a record with Rick Ross, didn't do well. Second song came out. It's a song called "Made to Love." It had a big sync with a car company at the time. I can't remember. It aired in the NBA Finals that year. Didn't work. And Columbia was at Columbia Records, where John was signed at, said, "Hey, we spent a lot of money on this album, we'll give you one more single." And that single happened to be All of Me. This is the time that he and Chrissy were getting married in Italy. They shot the video over there right before they got married. And we put the song out on top of the album. And that was in September of, I believe, 2012. Put the song out, started very slow. John was going on tour at that time. Fast forward to the Grammys of next year, he performed the record and it shot and it took off, and he hasn't looked back since. And so, it's funny, every time I hear that song, which is literally everywhere, the hotel lobby, radio, like, I cannot get away from that song. But I'm happy because I was a part of that.
Right, that's awesome. That's awesome. It seemed like it took a lot of navigation to get to the spot that you're at now. What advice do you have for young people who are trying to get into these rooms with this incredible talent, and how to navigate the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to probably sound like a broken record here and reiterate what everybody else has been saying, but the biggest thing is building relationships and networking. The thing is that we say that, right? But it's an actual skill, like, that you have to learn how to network. It's not just, hey, I meet you, what do you do? Let's figure it out. It's, getting to actually know people, right? Getting to know their families, their background, what do they do? And you just have to organically build that relationship, because, specifically in this industry, we are in a very fast-paced industry. It's always kind of like, well, what can you do for me? But you have to just build organic relationships. A perfect example for me right now is my wife and I. We just purchased a home and we're doing some renovations, and a gentleman that is renovating is actually, and he used to be an A&R. When I was interning, he was an A&R at Sony Urban, and he was actually the first person who taught me how to listen to a mix the right way. And, just over the years, we just, always stayed in touch and built a relationship. We've never actually done business together. And here we are, almost 16, 17 years later. And, he got out of the music business and he got into the construction business, which was his passion. And he's, renovating my home at a discounted price at that. So, definitely can't be mad at that. But again, it's just, just building relationships and networking, because you never know where that bridge that you're building is going to lead you to. So that's the one thing. Understanding the space and understanding what you want to do and gaining that knowledge is super important, and a part of that is going to be seeking people who live or who operate in that space. That's something that early on, I tried to do. And at that time, when I was coming up in the music business, for whatever reason, we as African Americans had a very limited, I think, kind of mentality in terms of like helping others, the generation under us. I think that has definitely changed over the years, and more specifically in the last year and a half, given the times that we're living in. But just being able to reach out to someone and having a conversation and gaining that knowledge in the space that you want to go in is valuable because being in the music business is not like a textbook. I mean, there are books, obviously, but obviously a lot of this is just doing it, getting in it and doing it. But you want to reach out to people who have done it to understand what the opportunities are. So those are like the two kind of key things that I would highlight.
Sounds great. I have two questions left for you. Firstly, what would you say is your life motto?
It's funny. I don't actually have a life motto. I was sitting here when I saw that. I was like, I don't really have a life motto. But what I tell a lot of the people on my team that we've hired over the last year or so when I've interviewed them is, I'll always ask, where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? And a lot of people like to say, oh, I want to be a vice president, or I want to do, be this or be that. And one thing that I've always told them is don't let titles define you, because what happens is you have these titles and then people have preconceived notions on what you're supposed to be doing. For an example, when I was an assistant, people thought that, oh, I was only going to, answer phones and get coffee and do this and do that. And it's like, no, I actually have great ideas that will help you with your marketing plan or with this. And so, again, don't let titles define you, because people will put limitations on you because of those titles.
Awesome, thank you. And last question, you said you worked with Kanye West. Is there any information you can give us about this album that's dropping this Friday?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
A track list or anything? I'm kidding, sure. I'm kidding. Thank you.
It's called Donda.
That's all you can give us? Thank you. We'll take it. We'll take it. Thank you, Mr. Blackman. Well, I'll hand it over to you. I'm Jed.
I'm definitely going to be on Spotify and Apple Music waiting for that album to drop. So, Donda should be good. Thanks, Justin. So, last but not least, we've got attorney Donald Woodard, who most recently served as the Deputy General Counsel and Chief Business Affairs Officer of USA Track and Field, but is a lawyer who does it all. He represents talent and companies in the music, television, film, new media, technology, and sports industries. Welcome, Mr. Woodard. It's a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I hear you're on the West Coast out in LA, my old home, so I know it's a little bit early for you, so we appreciate you making the time to join us here today.
Of course.
We want to start with the same question that we asked all of our other guests. How did you get your start? Can you tell us a little bit about your role and how you got to where you are and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. How much time do we have? So it was an uncharted path, and it was not a straight line. So I went to Morehouse College. I grew up in the DC area and went to Morehouse College, where I majored in computer science. And I graduated from Morehouse, worked in systems for a year and a half at a large pharmaceutical company, and then decided that I wanted to practice within the area of entertainment law. So I was not one of the lawyers that was 6 years old saying I wanted to be a lawyer. I did not think about law school in college. I thought about law school after college. I had a friend that was in the entertainment business that was a part of a recording group, and he and I were best friends. And I thought, well, I don't have any real talent, music talent or entertainment talent. So the next best thing for me would be to be a professional, and that's how I got to law school.
It sounds like you kind of had a little bit of come to life moment to really decide that you wanted to go to law school. But can you kind of rewind a little bit for us when you got to college and what your mentality was like at that time and how you started to really prepare yourself for the next chapter?
Yeah, sure. At that time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I fell into computer science. And so my goal at that point was just to learn as much as I could, work really, really hard, um, and to meet as many people as I could. I interned during each summer at a major Fortune 500 company, IBM, Amoco. And so my goal at that time was just to continue to build out a resume that I thought would be attractive to potential employers, as I journeyed along my way professionally. So I just continued to build and work really, really hard in school. Morehouse, as being a part of the AUC, gave me an opportunity to network and hear that word, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, and to build relationships with folks. And so there are some colleagues that I still do business with, that whether they're there on the professional side of the business or in the A&R executives, et cetera, that were from the AUC. So I just continued to work really hard in college.
It sounds like you've got quite a work ethic. As you kind of think about your journey, I mean, what do you think was the value of going to an HBCU like Morehouse, and how did that impact the direction that you wanted to take your life? Because some of these folks in here are going to have an opportunity to make a decision like that at some point in their lives. Can you just talk about that briefly?
Yeah, it was the best decision for me. Everybody makes a personal decision about what college is works for them. I went to a public high school outside of Washington, D.C., outside of Southeast D.C. I was an athlete, was not as good as Daniel, so I didn't, have an opportunity to play college ball. Played a half a year at Morehouse, and that's a really big football school, by the way. But I just, I don't. What happened is I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here because I just got a text from a client and there's an emergency, but I apologize. Could you repeat your question? Because I apologize. Could you repeat that question, please? Because
Sure, no problem. It happens sometimes. The question is about the value of going to an HBCU or choosing that as your destination for a university.
Got an emergency and I just had to send it to my associate. So again, I apologize for that.
Around the value of going to an HBCU.
Yeah, no, coming out of the public high school where I didn't realize it at the time, but I was not prepared for college. And HBCUs are built on a foundation of picking diamonds in the rough. And so I believe that Morehouse saw something in me and on my application, because yes, I had the grades where I was a honor student coming out of my school. My SAT scores were not the best. And again, I had no knowledge. I didn't know. My parents didn't come from this world, but they gave me an opportunity and they admitted me. And I made a commitment at that time to do the best I could. So I was the top freshman in my class that year. But I had to work really, really hard. There were students that sat next to me whose parents, might have been doctors, and they went to the best private schools that money could buy. And that just wasn't my experience. So HBCUs, I think, because of that nurturing, because they believe and they want to reach back and give brothers like me an opportunity, it was the best decision for me. I truly believe if I had gone to another school that I would have fallen through the cracks.
It's amazing to think about that being such a pivotal moment in your career, but I just want to check in. Do you need to step away, or are you all right to continue on?
I just put someone else on it, so it's being handled. I apologize. Yes, I got it done.
Glad we got that situated. Again, as you start to really think about your journey through college and through high school, can you just talk a little bit about mentorship and how that impacted your career, and who some of those folks were in your journey that really helped you make decisions that were important?
Yeah. And so I have variety of mentors and my parents and other colleagues. I didn't have one particular mentor. I continued to meet people along the way and ask a lot of questions. As I worked in different environments, I continued to build relationships with other professionals and continued to use them throughout my journey, asking a lot of questions, building relationships. And it wasn't just a one-way street. So I had to figure out a way, because when you are trying to network up, and so we talk about networking and building relationships, but you got to do it both ways. So you network across that side, whoever you're sitting next to, because they could be the next president of a company. But you're also networking up, and you have to find a way to add value, because when you're networking up, can you imagine the number of people, the number of emails, the number of phone calls of students and others that are trying to reach out to them as well? And so you have to figure out a way to add some value. So it provides a mutual benefit. You can't always call someone asking for what they can do for you, but you have to figure out a way, what can you do for them? And sometimes that might mean, I will provide some assistance to you at no charge. I just want to be in the room. We talk about being in the room. I just want to be around, and I want to learn from you. And I'm willing to do that in any way possible. Just give me a shot. And that's, in our business, entertainment and sports is such a competitive business. It's really competitive. So you have to really figure out a way. How do you set yourself apart? And how do you, like we've mentioned already, how do you get in the room with these folks? It could be volunteering. You've heard Beasla mentioned twice on this panel. I'm on the board of Beasla. There are students that start out volunteering for Beasla, and that's an opportunity to to meet and network, not just with lawyers, because as you hear Eddie and other folks have attended, and so there we have a variety of entertainment professionals that attend our conference, either because they're on a panel or because they just enjoy networking with other high-profile executives. And you look for opportunities and ways to just put yourself in a room. And so, if it means that you come down to Beasla and you volunteer during that 3-4 day period, and you're intentional about it. So you're not just volunteering, but you're intentional that you are in the room and you're networking and you're meeting as many people as you can. And that's served us all well here.
Yeah, really valuable advice. It's funny that you mentioned kind of working for free. I actually got my start in the creative media and entertainment space working for free for photographers and commercial directors and that kind of thing. And I think what you're saying is you have to find a way to add value. You have to find a way to make it worth their time for them to spend, right? To take a time out of their day when they could be using it to mentor other people who add value in one way or another, to differentiate yourself, right? So that's really valuable information that you shared with us there. Can you just talk a little bit about, in your line of work, what are some of the most rewarding things that you've had an opportunity to be a part of?
Yeah, so I've done some shifts. The entertainment space is flashy, right? So we have these opportunities to attend, the award shows that we take for granted. So, I've attended the Grammys and ESPYs and all of these different award shows. But where I find the most value is when I'm able to uplift and change someone's life. And as a lawyer representing talent, particularly talent that comes from a place sometimes that is tough, from these environments, but you change their life overnight. So, for example, I had the pleasure of negotiating a recording deal for Nbpa. So I'm his lawyer. And when I was brought on, which is interesting, I was still working at USA Track and Field in-house. And I consulted and was the lead counsel on the deal, but and this is public knowledge, so I'm not sharing anything that's not published, but to negotiate an $8 million deal for this kid, he was 16 years old. You're talking about building generational wealth in our community. What a way to start. 16 years old, $8 million deal, was the largest, new recording artist deal in the last, several years at the time. And so those are the type of opportunities, and those are the type of things that makes, that makes it all worthwhile for me, because that not just changed his life, but that changed his whole family's life. And then from there, you building on top of that. And so those are the types of things. I'm changing lives every day when we're doing deals for clients, and they're seeing the kind of money that they never thought they would see. Now, what we hope is that they do what they're supposed to do with the money. And that's where I believe as well that I've been put in these guys' lives and young ladies' lives to not just be their lawyer. We wear multiple hats in our field. So I'm counselor at times. I have a client that called me just this week while I'm in LA. Big name client, just did a major deal, and he's telling me he doesn't want to be famous, and he didn't know this is what it was going to mean. And so I'm like, we just did this deal, man. You just put all this money in your pocket. And he's just going through that. So we are, so I'm having this conversation, and I said, you know what, but I believe that God put me in your life for a reason. And so I'm, you can call me, we have those conversations, and I'm here for him, and I'm always here for my clients. And so I think that's what's unique too. And I'll say this, I worked at some large law firms, and the first law firm that I worked in within the entertainment space was one of the most powerful entertainment law firms in the business. And so I've been around it all, I've seen it all. But the one thing that I think is unique for minority lawyers, at least for me, and I see this from all of my other counsels and Jakeem and others that I work with, is that we bring a certain amount of care in working with our clients. We see them for who they are, and they're not just a check. They look like me, and they come from places where we come from. And so it is important to me that I'm not only just doing a deal and helping them make money, but I'm also helping them with life skills and making sure that I bring a financial person into their lives, and accountants and CPAs and tax accountants, and making sure that they are filing their taxes appropriately. So, you have not heard about any of my clients so far, having tax issues in the press. Because that's important to me, that we are surrounding them with people that uplift them and help build them up as well.
That's incredible. I mean, it sounds like, part of what you're saying echoes what Mr. Blackman said as well, right? Which is, don't let your title determine the value and the work that you end up doing, right? So the ability that you have to wear multiple hats and kind of be in a position to counsel and support and provide guidance when your clients need it is probably why your clients go to you. So, hopefully one day you and I can work together. I need an entertainment lawyer on my side. I just want to take a moment, and I think it would be really important for you to share a little bit of wisdom with our audience. What is some of your best advice for people that want to get into your shoes, and what is maybe an obstacle that you've overcome that a lot of Black people face when they're going through this journey?
I mean, there's some cliches that you'll always hear. I mean, but they're true, so if you really want to work in this business, the sports and entertainment business, you have to be willing to work hard, and you have to be willing not to accept no. Doors will be slammed, doors will be closed, and you just have to keep going. It took me probably 3 years to land my first job in entertainment after graduating law school. And here I am thinking that I'm building the right profile that everyone will want me. So, I'd worked at companies, I had done well in law school, I clerked for a federal judge, I was a lawyer at a very large law firm, and I was in Atlanta, and I was banging on this one particular door of the only large entertainment space, law firm. And that door was just closed. I didn't even get a return phone call. I'm like, look, my resume has to be one of the best resumes that you're receiving over there. And I wasn't even getting a return call. But I persevered. I was spending my own money to go to New York. I was doing whatever I had to do to put myself in the room around people in this business. I didn't care what it meant. And so, and I continued to knock on the door of that firm too. And I ended up getting in, but I got in through the back door. Literally, I got a phone call that said, hey, there's a corporate lawyer within the entertainment group looking for help. He's overworked. I was working in a corporate firm, and I called him, and long story short, I got hired, and that's how I got in. But I also kept my eye on the prize and wanted to continue to do entertainment work. So even within that environment, I had to go out and hustle. I wasn't brought on core entertainment matters. I was working on corporate matters. But I went out and got, my first entertainment client, and they had to recognize me at that point because it was Young Jeezy. So I was Jeezy's lawyer for 10 years. And so he blew up overnight. And so they had to recognize that now, they had to allow me to do entertainment work. So you just have to keep pushing and looking for opportunities wherever they may come. Your eyes have to be open. You never know where that opportunity may come from. We talk about networking, and we mention that a lot. My job at USA Track and Field is a direct result of the work that I put in even before law school. I met Max Siegel before law school. He was a lawyer working at a large firm representing Reggie White, the late Reggie White, and others in the business, sports and entertainment business. And I continued to build with him, just reach out to him as a young lawyer. I brought him down to speak at the law school. When I graduated from law school and when I finally made it to the entertainment firm, I called him and said, hey, I'm in entertainment now. He hired me to represent him and negotiate his executive deal. He was, at that time, it made his way, and he was president of Verity Records, the largest gospel label in the world. And so I negotiated his deal there. We continued to keep in touch. I kept my communication open with him over the years. I didn't call him every day. It was just updating him on my journey. And he called me August of 2016. Never forget it, because I was a partner at another law firm at the time, a large law firm. And he called me and asked me, if I would be interested in joining USA Track and Field in-house general counsel. And I said, yes, I would. He caught me at the right time. In 2016, the music business was still going through a transition with streaming and technology. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to get a different experience. But that all, came full circle from the time that I started building with him before law school. And so you've heard it's a journey, you've heard it's a marathon. It really, truly is. I mean, that was probably 15 plus years later where he hired me to come in. And that was, it was one of the best experiences of my professional career, because I was able to touch deals that I wouldn't have been able to touch otherwise. I'm negotiating big sponsorship deals with Nike and Toyota and Comcast, and doing all of our championship deals and agreements. So it was just a wonderful opportunity and wonderful experience that I directly point back to that day when I reached out to him and continued to build with him, 15 plus years later.
I mean, that's a testament to the work and the relationship that you've built, but also continue to remain committed to, right? They talk about how there are some people that are in your life for a reason, there's some people in your life for a season. I think that's a great example of that. As we kind of move on to the final question here, I'm curious, do you have a life motto that you live by?
I do. If for those that know me, my personality is, I think you have to do the work. Again, I mentioned that, we're in a flashy business, and but substance as a lawyer is really, really important. You can get the client, get the deal, but if you can't negotiate the deal, if you do poor work, your work will speak for you. So my life motto is, you work hard in silence. You work hard in silence, and you let success make the noise. That's something I live by. You're not going to find me out here popping bottles with my clients. That's just not what I do. You do see that in our business. I'm not, it's just not me, but I think, the work speaks for itself. When you get calls from chairmen of labels wanting to refer you a client, that's when I know I've done my job. When that happens. And so that's kind of how I view, how you have to work. I'm also a really big boxing fan. And so I've trained as a boxer, and Muhammad Ali is one of my favorite boxers. And he has a quote that is very similar, that he worked hard behind the scenes, not under the lights, so that when he stepped in the ring, he was a champion and he was a winner. And that's something I live by.
Mindset of a champion. Thank you, Mr. Woodard. I appreciate you. Justin?
All right, thank you guys. I'd like to thank all of our guests today for such an enlightening and inspiring session. I think it's very important and valuable for our young listeners today to hear about everyone's journey and how they got into the position that they're currently in. I think it's appropriate. I think our crowd was tapped in today, so I see a couple questions in chat. I think it's appropriate that we can move into our Q&A session. So
what we're going to do is, if you're here in the room with us, you can go over to the podium if you've got a question that you want to ask. I imagine you guys have a ton of questions. And then what we'll also do is we've got some questions in the chat. So Kojo, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off with a question in the chat, that would be great.
Sure. First question is from Carter Robinson. Mr. Van Norton, what kind of people held you back when you were trying to go further?
Wow. I guess I could probably give you an example with probably with my playing days. I think a lot of coaches, and I can give you one professionally too. So when I was at Temple, like I said, I had three coaches in the span of 5 years. Every coaching staff was different. So when I first started at Temple, I had Al Golden. He was really keen on walk-ons. He gave them an opportunity to grow, to develop. My following year, I had a different head coach. They really weren't as welcoming and opening to walk-on. So it was more of an uphill battle in order for me to prove myself to them that I was, both, a student athlete. Because I think sometimes a lot of coaches get it, twisted where it's like football is everything. But no, like football is just a portion. Football is just an opportunity, right? But I was a student athlete. So I think I had to go a little bit above and beyond to really work hard to show myself, what I can do, how I can lead both on and off the field. And it actually worked out. Although I didn't play as much as I wanted to under that second coaching staff, I earned a scholarship, which was more important because that provided for me to, get my books and tuition, dorms, everything paid for. So I would say that was one example from just me playing in sports. But I think in life, you're not going to have everyone probably, I guess, in your corner. But I think you got to still be able to persevere in spite of that. Because like I said, you're in direct control of how far you want to, succeed, how far you want to go, your drive, your determination in life. You determine that. You shouldn't let anyone else hold you back, right? Even if the people aren't going to support you, even if they're not going to be in your corner, you should be able to put your head down, continue to keep working, continue to keep, being determined that I can do this. I have the utmost confidence in myself, if no one else does, that I can do this, that I can achieve these goals. So in spite of some of the things I have, encountered in this industry, with not everyone being as supportive of me or of me advancing, I've taken it upon myself to be the person that encourages myself to keep pushing forward every day.
Thank you.
Great answer. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and go on to another question in the chat. And for those of you that are tuning in virtually, please continue typing in those questions. And in the room, if you want to stand up and go to the podium, please feel free to do that at any moment. Looks like we've got a question here in the room.
I'll make a comment from Brandon Wood to Donald Woodard. He thought it was a great word, and I'm assuming it was concerning the care of your clients because you look like them at that time period, and that was relevant.
Hello, I'm Jacorian Anderson, and when I get older, I want to be an entrepreneur, own a couple businesses. So is there any tips or ways you guys can say, because I want to get started early in life, so.
I'll start. Neil mentioned something when he talked, and that is you learn as much as you can. You take different courses. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to know various parts of business. I just started my law firm, so this is my first time as an entrepreneur. I worked for others for most of my professional career, and now I'm being kind of thrown into, there's accounting and profit and loss statements and running a business. Marketing and finance, they all run hand in hand. And so the more skills that you can learn early, economics and how money works, you have to work hard. Entrepreneurs, you never turn it off. Your business is your life. So, again, that's what I would recommend, but you try to learn as many skills as you can. Money and finance is really important. Marketing, business, you're just trying to build a foundation of kind of smart business.
And I think Donald said, three key words when you're starting are product, market, and fit. And what those mean, right, when you think about the first word, product. So you think about being an entrepreneur and what you want to create. What is that? What is that tangible good or experience or service that you're looking to provide to your customer base, right? What market is the second word. What market does that fit into, right? So you should be studying your potential competitors, understanding what they do well, maybe what they don't do so well, so that you can take advantage of your business venture. And then lastly, the third word is fit, right? So within that market, for you to succeed and to be able to successfully launch, grow, or scale your business, right? How do you differentiate from the competition, and what is that unique thing or that special sauce that you bring to the table with your opportunity that's ultimately going to allow you to succeed? And then from there, again, as Donald mentioned, you take all of the tools and skill sets that you've learned and you kind of apply that kind of in a funnel to start to build out what your business looks like and to really start moving the ball forward.
I think that's really great advice from two very sharp individuals. I actually started my business when I was 26, my first business, 26 years old, 25 years old actually. And some advice that I would add to that is that a couple different things. One, figure out what it is that you're good at, right? As an entrepreneur, you kind of have to kind of build the plane and fly it at the same time, if you've ever heard that anecdote, right? And so what that means is you're not always going to have the answers to every single question. And there's going to be a lot of things that you don't know. And I think for me, one of the things that I kind of had to set aside was feeling too confident and too arrogant to ask questions and to fail and to use those opportunities that were failures of mine to really grow and move in the right direction. But I think if you as a young person now, think about what skills you can monetize, right? Start to kind of write down, what do I know really well that people would pay me for? And then use kind of a trial and error method to say, all right, I got feedback from these people. They told me what I did well, and they said I could improve in these areas. I'm going to take that and sharpen my skills so that now I can charge more money. And now I can find ways to continue to grow my business that way. But really great question, and I hope that your entrepreneurial ventures pan out for you. Kojo, we got another question from the audience?
Brandon Wood to the group. Outside of networking and working internships, is there another way to connect?
I'll jump in and kick this one off. I think that's a great question. I'll use my own life as an example. I think outside of I guess traditional networking and internships, right? Like every opportunity that you meet someone is a chance to, I guess in quotes, connect. But the best way that I've always found to do it is just do things that you love. And for me, it was always basketball, right? And I'm sure for the panelists, they have their own passions as well. But find things that you're doing on an everyday basis that you're passionate about, and take interest in those you meet along the way. I mean, for me, anybody that's familiar with Ohio State, I spent probably more time at the RPAC, which is our recreation center, at times than I probably did in the classroom. But just being able to interact with people on the court and through the opportunities that I was able to have playing ball for Ohio State at the club level, and the people that I met kind of along my journey, like naturally that turns into networking. And the best thing about that is you have something immediately and organically in common, right? And that's a love for me, again, it was a sport, but that for everybody in the audience, that could be whatever passion that you have. And I think using that to your advantage, and as some of the panelists mentioned, developing just real relationships versus, again, I'll use it in quotes, networking, I think will go a long way.
If I may, I actually would love to hear from Mr. Mays. Having worked in television and working with folks who potentially have different ideas that they want to bring to life, what are some of the things that you see people do that are really successful, that come to you and pitch ideas?
That's a loaded question. I think it goes back to, first of all, learning about the business. I get a lot of people, potential clients, quote unquote, that they're like, oh, I have the best idea ever. And, if you could just, bring it to this studio or this person, I know it'll get made and I know it'll be a hit. Same thing in the music business. And I have a music practice and television and film practice. The thing is, I think listening to the advice that you receive and then understanding that it takes a village. So doing it the right way, I think is important. Some of the good things that I've seen, I'm actually working right now with some clients that won a competition, I guess you'd call it, with NBC Universal and Target and Will Packer. It's called Scene and Film. And so young Black filmmakers that whose short films were chosen and are being highlighted on the NBC Universal network. And so they are, this is their first project. I'm in a position to be able to provide the, advice to them about how the business works. They are asking the questions. They focused on their craft, but at the same time, have the understanding of, okay, I'm going to do the best thing I can, put it out there. And we're open to the advice that they receive from those around them.
We've got another question in the room here. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Talia, and I was wondering, when did you do your interns? Both in high school and college, or just in college or in high school?
Yeah, I can jump in for that one. I know for me, I did it in high school and in college. And I think the more experience you can get, the better for yourself. Obviously, I know when I was in high school, I interned at an insurance company, and I had no desire to work in insurance, but I think I was just able to gain a lot of fundamental knowledge. I worked in marketing. Next year, I did stuff with our IT service delivery, project management. So that was in high school, just kind of getting some good experience and understanding, what I want to do, what I want to pursue. I think that'll help us out as well. The more experience you can get and learn, like, what are you passionate about? What can really help you? What are your interests? And then in college, I had an internship as well, several internships. And sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're unpaid, right? But I think just you got to put in a lot in order to get back a lot as well. Like if it's unpaid, yeah, I mean, it may be unpaid, but you may gain a lot of knowledge, build a lot of relationships that can help you down the road. So I think you got to, even when you're looking at it, it's unpaid, I don't want to do it, but you got to look at the bigger picture and how it can help you long-term in your career.
Great advice. Mr. Blackman, I saw that you unmuted as well. Is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, I did an internship, a summer internship in college to finish my career. I met a couple of, here's this Beasley thing again. I met a couple of my fraternity brothers. Shout out Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Zeta chapters at the Ohio State University. A couple of my fraternity brothers, the Prasad brothers, Michael and Irwin, and at that time they had a marketing company in New York, and so I did a summer internship there, and through that summer internship actually led me to my Interscope internship. So I people that know me, going back to this whole title thing as well, is, I always say that I used to be an unpaid intern, now I'm a paid intern, because the reality is that every day you're learning something new, and if you're not, then you're doing something wrong. So I think every day you're an intern and learning something.
Incredible advice. Justin, anything you want to add to that? I mean, you're kind of going through that journey. What does the internship search look like for you? And
I think the landscape right now is a lot different than it was definitely 10, 20 years ago, just because of the vastness of the internet and being able to network online. I know, got to get my LinkedIn set up, but even through just one platform like LinkedIn, you'll be able to find tons and tons of job opportunities and internships, even in high school. While I was in high school, I actually haven't started any internships in college yet. You know, I'm a COVID student, so 2020, that was a terrible year to jump into a lot of different endeavors. But in high school, I was able to network myself through LinkedIn and through online networking in order to get different job opportunities and internships. And so there's definitely a lot more opportunity, I think, now for younger people, especially people of color, to get into internships. So if you want to, I'd say, as a piece of advice, is if you want to find a job opportunity or internship, really just market yourself online and start putting yourself into these landscapes online where people can see you, because there are plenty of job opportunities and employers that are willing to reach out to you as long as you're there and willing to put yourself out there. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable advice. And I think something else to keep in mind is that all of you are living in the age of social media, right? I think I've seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks, so many people create applications on TikTok to prove to these different employers that they can do whatever skill it is that they're saying that they can do. I literally saw a kid yesterday who said, I got my dream job at TikTok and I applied originally with his resume and actually the regular traditional application through a video he created on TikTok. So use those different tools like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these different places to reach out to these folks who work in spaces that you're interested in, right? I'm as an executive producer, I use Instagram and Twitter and all these places all the time to reach out to people, whether I'm trying to book them as talent, even if I have their emails, right? Because I'm hoping that maybe they'll respond and answer a question or have a conversation with me. And so having all these different tools, right? And not to mention LinkedIn, having all these different tools at your fingertips is critical. Use them. Don't just sit on there and scroll and have fun. Use it to do that too, but use these tools because they are part of your advantage.
I'd like to add on to that. Definitely, social media is a great resource for you to use. There have been plenty of times where I found an opportunity that I thought was awesome, that all I did was DM someone. Hey, is this available? Can I work for you? What can I do to help you? And a lot of the times you might not get a response, but a lot of the times you do. And if you if you keep shooting, you're going to make some of the shots. And so that's kind of how you can utilize that to your advantage. So yeah, that's what I like to do.
Shoot, thank you for the question. I think we've got another one in the room here. Oh, go ahead.
Hello, my name is David Rodriguez, and I have a question. Sitting here listening to this program, I've learned that you guys are all extremely ambitious, including Ahmed and Justin. So this question is for all of you. Will you ever reach a state of satisfaction?
The question was, will you ever reach a state of satisfaction? Why don't we start with Eddie? If you're around, you can hear us.
Me?
Yes, sir. Will you ever reach a state of satisfaction?
I mean, I hope so. You know, I mean, I definitely hope so. You know, that's actually a very interesting question. I've never actually been asked that before, which is probably why I'm a little stumped on the answer. But you know, it's kind of like, you know, there is no such thing as perfect, right? Although we try to reach the state of perfection, there just is no real thing called perfect. It, you know, obviously it is what it is in your mind. And so I think satisfaction is probably the same thing. So, you know, let's see how my bank account looks at 65 and then let's reconvene.
Thank you for the answer. Sorry to put you on the spot there. Anyone else want to chime in?
I'll jump in on that. The short answer is no, because there's always going to be something else. But at the same time, I've given advice to young people in the past where I've said, take time to smell the roses, reflect on what you have accomplished. So it's not a negative, you know, to say no. It's just that, you know, there are always 5 things on my to-do list that I did not get done that day, or I've achieved a goal and there's, okay, what's next? And, so for example, when I was an undergrad, I put myself through undergrad. And so it seemed impossible, insurmountable. And then I got done, I graduated. And so it's like, now what? And so that was many years ago, but there are, I've accomplished, some things since then. So you're always growing, you're always looking toward the next thing.
Yeah, I feel
and
that.
as well, I think it's important to determine how you define success. So I'm going to flip that a little bit. I think, we all define success differently, and you have to figure that out. Because like we've all said, I mean, we can pursue, perfection. There is no such thing as perfection, but we'll continue to grind and pursue and run. This business will grind you, you will run, and you will look up and look back and start to reflect on your life. So how do you define success? That's different from each individual to each individual. And that will help you, at least in some ways, I believe, begin to determine how you reach a place of satisfaction.
Awesome. Daniel, anything to add to that?
I think that all great words of wisdom from everybody. Like I said, I think it's just you want to continue to be a student, right? You always want to continue to learn. And I think that's kind of what everybody kind of shared. Just you want to continue to grow, continue to learn, be innovative, right? Stay on top of the game, right? Even when you feel like you've learned a lot, keep learning. That's why I was just challenge myself every day. It's like I don't ever want to reach that place of like complacency or saying like I have it all figured out, because there's so much that you can this world offers, and so much you can grow in. And I think being a student and having that mentality of always willing to learn and grow can take you a long way, especially in this industry.
Yeah.
I'd like to add on to that. I think it's important that you look at it, you're able to see it from two different angles. Whereas you're always striving for more and you're always wanting to improve upon yourself, but to also be thankful for what's been given to you and what you've accomplished already. I lost my train of thought listening to what they said. That's essentially what I would add.
I agree with you. I think, it really depends on who you are as a person. And I think if you can think back to your roots and times in your life where you haven't had some things that you may have needed, right? I think it can determine how much you value the things you have in your life today and what you really, define as success for you. My family and I, we immigrated to the United States, and I was the first in my family to go to college, right? And so I feel for me that satisfaction is determined by how much I'm able to contribute to other people. But I feel satisfied just knowing that I accomplished something that my parents sacrificed for me to have the opportunity to do. And so as I kind of walk through life, I have this desire to create opportunities for other people, right? And I think that's something that is going to make me feel more satisfied than making any certain amount of money or accomplishing any certain things. And so I encourage you to keep thinking about that as well, because you never know. I mean, our time is not exactly up to us, and so you want to be able to live life doing things that feel good for you.
And obviously, I'm not as definitely not as old as a lot of our guests here, and I'm not as I'm pretty early in the process of my career. But I think one of the things that's kept me satisfied is being in a state like where everyone's constantly changing, moving. And I think what keeps you satisfied is being in a state of self-improvement and striving in your career. And so it's not necessarily a point that you reach, but remaining in a state where you continue to progress, because there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be new things to accomplish, but to take that away and just focus on whether you're in a state of improvement.
Absolutely. Neil, was there something you wanted to add?
No, I was going to say to wrap, I think to really boil it down, you have to be able to look at yourself, that person in the mirror, and you have to be good with that individual looking back at you. And you have to be satisfied internally with who you are. And as you mentioned, Amjad, appreciating what you have in your current state, but also understanding where you're trying to go to, right? And find satisfaction in the process of just getting better and continuing to grind and push forward.
Yeah, great advice from all these folks. Thank you so much for the question. I think we've got another one in the room here. Two more in the room, okay.
Hello, my name is Avery Price, and did y'all's credit or financial history ever affect one of y'all of getting a job?
I'm gonna let the lawyer take that one.
So I think the answer to your question, if you're asking, do companies run credit checks and background checks when they offer you employment? And has anyone been denied employment because they didn't have a good credit score? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Donald?
I've never heard that happening before. I don't have the expertise within that particular field of law, but I would surmise that it is against the law to run such a check and to determine whether or not someone's fit for employment based on their credit score. So I don't believe you have to worry about that. Having said that, I think you provide yourself with more options when you're financially sound. And so I think that is important, that you are considering and thinking about that as you journey, because it just frees you up to do more things that you might want to do and that you love.
And so I'd probably just add, I know that the laws differ by state. So I'm licensed in California. There are specific disclosures that you fill out, sign off on when you do a background check. The laws are different in New York versus perhaps maybe Georgia or other states, but it's really more a background check. They're looking for criminal history, and I believe, well, in California at least, they can't even use that anymore. But the goal should be, put your best foot forward, right? So having, as Donald just mentioned, you'll have more options if you have a sound financial background. If you having a criminal history doesn't preclude you from getting a job, but certainly could make it more challenging. So that's what I'll say to that.
Great advice. And if you want to learn more about financial literacy and credit and all that good stuff and how to build it and maintain it, check out a podcast hosted by two brothers, Earn Your Leisure, right? They talk about investing, they talk about cryptocurrency, they talk about a lot of different things. And it's also available on YouTube, so you can watch that too. But Earn Your Leisure, make sure you guys check that out. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
We got another question in the room here, and then we'll go to some of our questions in the chat.
Hi, my name is Zachary Blackman, and my question is, what advice would you give a student that's fresh out of college and doesn't know what they still want to do career-wise?
I almost feel obligated to answer that question because, did you say your last name was Blackman?
I was actually curious if we were related by chance.
I can't see you, but possibly. I've been looking for some of my relatives lately. Listen, I went to college. When I entered college, I wanted to be a school teacher. I wanted to be an educator, and I think similar to Neil, that quickly changed after my freshman year. And I looked up and I didn't have the grades that would help me get into that program. And so I kind of just landed, backwards into this, into the music business. It's funny because even sometimes today I'm like, man, do I still want to do this or do I want to pivot and do something else? So I think that's always something that you always kind of struggle with is figuring out what you want to do. So it's going to be natural, once you graduate college, you'll start on one path, and I'm sure everybody has experienced this. Some people on the panel that spoke about this. It's like you're going to have multiple lives. Far removed are we from the days of having one job. I mean, my mother-in-law, she was a nurse. When she graduated college, she went into nursing and she retired a nurse, and she worked the same job at the same hospital for 35 years. Like, that is unheard of, I think, nowadays. And so, you're gonna live a multiple lives and have multiple careers. So, don't get worried about it.
Okay, thank you.
That from the panel? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I believe we've got some more in the chat, so we'll let Brother Kojo tell us what he's seeing over there.
So I've got two more, and then we'll be open for folks from the audience. First question from Kasanga, and brother, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Online says, how are you able to balance work and personal life, and how did your success negatively or positively influence your personal life? And that could be for the group.
I think I have to start with this one. So, I'm in my second marriage, so that's the reason why I'll start this. And my initial, as a lawyer, particularly working at large law firms where you're working 80 plus hours a week, I did get caught up in the grind of practicing law and lost sight of what was really important. And so I had to learn some lessons, some hard lessons along the way. And so I do think it's important that you keep your eye, on what's important to you. It's difficult because, as in our profession, there is no such thing really as a 9 to 5. I am working constantly, and I've just gotten better at managing my personal life and my professional life. And that took some time, and I took some knocks along the way. When you're working, it's 80 hours plus a week. I mean, this is pretty regular. It's not, Jakeem is shaking his head. This is what we do. And when you love what you do, it's better, but it doesn't mean that it's easier on your family. I am in LA right now. I'm based in Atlanta, and I'll share this. When I was working for track and field for 4.5 years, the last 4.5 years, I left in January officially, I was commuting Monday through Friday. So my family lived in Atlanta. I'm remarried 8 years, so my wife was supportive and understood it, but it took a lot of work for me and my family to focus on making us a priority. So on weekends, I essentially was family all weekend, and then back out on Monday morning, doing it all again. And so it is tough. It can be done, but you just have to focus in making sure that you're always prioritizing what's important to you. So.
Yeah, it's, to Donald's point, this is definitely you 80 hours. I was going to say 100 hours a week.
Well, that's on the low end, unfortunately.
I was going to say that's a light week.
Yeah, that's a light week.
It has definitely become more challenging in the last year, and almost it feels like a half at this point, when everyone stopped and did work from home, because there is no delineation of like, okay, I'm getting up, I'm getting dressed, I'm getting in my car, I'm getting on the train, getting in an Uber, what have you, I'm going to an office, I'm going to be there for 8 hours, I'm going to take a lunch, what have you, I'm going to come home. I'm at home. And I, very early on during the pandemic, I found myself on my computer, and I would look up and it'd be like midnight, and I don't even know how I was working that late. So you definitely have to, at what I did was, at 7 o'clock, I just shut my computer. I set an alarm at 7 o'clock. I just shut my computer. I went upstairs, spent time with the kids, dinner, got them to bed. And then sometimes I would go back to doing work. But, you just find yourself at all time just on your device, in the bathroom, texting while driving. Like, you just have to figure out how to put parameters in place to just stop work. And it is challenging to do it, especially if it's something, we're all in careers and I use that word careers These aren't really jobs. I mean, I'm speaking for everybody else, but I'm not speaking for everybody else. Like, these are things that we love to do. And so when you love to do something, it's like if you play basketball, it's like, man, if I could play basketball all day long, I would play basketball, because these are things that you love to do. We are in positions that we love, but at some point you have to figure out how to just stop, breathe, relax, do something else, and then get back to it.
I think the common theme here is more about work-life integration rather than just balance, right? Because work is part of your life, and that's an important message. Neil, I think it would be great to hear from you as well, because working with professional athletes, I think you kind of have athletes who respond at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning versus right when you message them. What's that like for you?
It's crazy, brother, and I know you can relate as well. But yeah, I feel like at this point, every time that email ding happens, regardless of what time, I immediately get up, and it's an alarming but exciting feeling. I think, as everybody has kind of mentioned through their answers, for us, it's not a job, it's career. I'd say it's 24/7, but it's probably really 25/8, right? Like it's that above and beyond. And so I think we all need, in our respective roles to a degree, to make sure that we're available for our athletes, clients, partners, etc. And I think making yourself available and answering in timely fashion, in most cases, helps separate yourself from the competition. But that being said, I think it's really important to have an inner circle of family and friends that are a part of your personal team, right? To keep you honest and to make sure that you don't get stuck in the grind, if you will. And I think that, personally has really helped me along the way. I know during the pandemic, as Eddie mentioned, it feels like it's been taken to a whole new level, just in terms of accessibility. But it's just something that I guess comes with the territory or nature of our careers. And again, that being said, I think being able to, as an individual, kind of manage it and put parameters around it, but also, again, having a team to keep you honest, will really help you to manage the whole situation and get you to a place where you need to be.
Thank you for sharing that, gentlemen. Kojo, you've got another question for us?
Thank you. Thank you for your transparency for that last question, brothers. Last question, I got a couple of really good questions. I'm going to pick one in the interest of time. I'm going to go to a new name. Tony White for the group says, for someone freshly coming out of college, going into the entertainment industry, he's been dancing and acting, who's been doing training and research for about a decade. He says, I have a growing network and support system. What do you think is something to keep in mind, something that many people in my position don't realize about the business of entertainment sports?
I'll jump in first. It's a business. It is 90% business, and you need to take care of your business. If you're doing it you have to do it for the love. You have to do it because you're passionate. But when you're on the talent side, you have to understand the economics of what you're doing. So don't enter a bad deal. Don't work for free. Let me say that better. Know your value. That's a better way to say it. But make sure that you have a good team around you to make sure that you maximize your income. Otherwise, half of the homeless people that I see in Los Angeles, I live in LA, used to be actors. You may even see some people that you recognize. So just take care of your business.
Anyone else want to add on to that? Okay. Well, I think that's all the time we've got for questions. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, on this panel for being here with us today and sharing your wisdom, your stories, your insight. We're truly grateful to have had this opportunity, and it's amazing that we get to hear from all of you in different places around the world to really share your insight with all of us. I look back at my life and I wish that we did more of these sorts of conversations. So I hope all of you in this room today are motivated and inspired and enlightened. I want to thank my Brother's Keeper Village, as well as Ohio State University Fisher College of Business for having this event and for having Justin and myself be a part of this as well. It's been an honor to be here with all of you today and to listen to all of you. So Justin, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us in the studio today to come listen, and everyone that tuned in virtually. I hear that there is actually more to come, so stay tuned, and until then, keep striving.
Thank you, everybody.